I'm Chad Ruthermond,
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
and welcome to NOCLIP Pocket. Born to camp, forced to work. Today, we're going to be talking about A Short Hike, a game that was developed by Adam Robinson Yu, self-published by him, and released in 2019 on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, and then it had a 2020 release on the Switch. A Short Hike is a free-roaming adventure platforming game is kind of what I'm settling on.
Like a sandbox game.
Yeah, except it isn't like, I don't know how best to describe the play pattern of this game, because the actual things that you do in A Short Hike are essentially like move, climb, float, jump. Like classical platforming stuff.
Yeah.
But your goal, while the overall goal of the game is to reach the summit of the mountain, the actual thing that keeps you playing this game is more interacting with the other characters in a more adventure game style.
Yeah, I was thinking of it as Stop and Smell the Roses, the game.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like for me, it felt like it put me in the character's shoes a lot. Where at first, like, she just wants to climb to the top of the mountain to call her mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, go get to the top of the mountain. All right. And so I'm like focused on that. And then like all the little people you talk to are just like, collect shells. And you're like, okay, I can get that along the way to the top.
Right.
Like stuff to just do while you move forward. And then but you keep going further and further, and you're like, here's the watering can. And you're like, oh, I remember all these little sprouts that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And like you keep encountering all these things that make you want to turn around and go back, or just interact, run around where you are and comb more thoroughly. So like it very organically, I think, gets you in that headspace. Like that's what it wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I was starting this game, the way that you described it, you were like, it probably wouldn't take that long to finish, but there are all these little side stuff, and I know that you're going to want to do them, and that rings pretty true. This game is full of the kind of thing that I like to sort of like spend time with when a game gives you a more open sort of open world experience like this one does. Like a lot of open world games like to sort of like live and die on the size of their map, and this is a very small map for an open world game, but the density of stuff to do is really high. And it kind of gives me like collectathon vibes to some extent, because there's a lot of things and a lot of numbers to increment, and so I got kind of wrapped up in doing that stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, there's just sort of like very natural exploration early in the game, and it makes it feel real good to kind of just like get a little bit higher, do a little bit more stuff, find more people to talk to, and do all these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really dense, and it does highlight, I think, you compared it to a collectathon, and I think it's a kind of like design, like a value in design, I think, like these smaller, denser areas that have kind of gotten left behind by like the AAA games industry, like in favor of bigger, just more content on average. And I think this really highlights the value of that older, like, N64, PS1 era where you had to just like, you could only make so much and you had to make the most of it. Like those kinds of benefits. I think this game really kind of champions it in my mind.
This may be a bit of an overreach as far as a comparison goes, but it reminds me of a conversation that we had specifically when talking about Super Mario Odyssey, how there was a lot of talk online about how, some of the moons are just fucking laying around, just and that sucks. We want a challenge to get our stuff. But the reality of the situation when you play Mario Odyssey is that there are so many collectibles. There's like literally hundreds of moons, which in other games would be the primary objective, but in this game are more they're more akin almost to coins, or like the colored coins, than than they are the superstars or the shine sprites. And so I really remixed that shine sprites. But this game, I think, has a similar thing. There's so many different collectibles in such a dense area that the fact that some of them require you to solve puzzles to get to them, and some of them require you to like do like a weird side quest for a character, are like, I think it's all positive. It's additive. Mm-hmm. Like, the fact that you're collecting stuff all the time doesn't take away from the fact that the act of getting all of the stuff is in itself kind of the point of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the scope is small enough that like everything you find has a use, mm-hmm. even if it's just buying feathers.
Yes.
In the end, you know, like everything, you never feel like you're wasting your time with doing any of the stuff that you come across.
Yeah. It's cool. I mean, there are definitely some items, like I was like pretty much done with the game. Like, I could have turned the game off and felt like I was prepared to come in and talk about it, mm-hmm. Before I found the pickaxe. And when you find the pickaxe, you just find like 4 of them laying on the ground.
Yeah.
And then I got that and I was like, oh, well, there's more stuff that I could, because like I remembered like these rocks and things that were blocking things, and I was like, okay, this is probably what this does. So I got to kind of float around the island a little bit more and do a little bit more experimentation to figure stuff out.
Yeah, I got a little bit up towards the top and needed more feathers, so I just kind of was like, I'm just going to jump off here and just glide down, mm-hmm. right? You know, as you will inevitably do while playing this. And I landed on a spot on like the bottom of the island that I'd never been to, and I thought that I had explored the bottom part of the island pretty well, and I'm mm-hmm. like, where the hell is this? And I found those pickaxes, and like there's like the guy that you can sell the fish to, and like etc. down there, and I'm like, oh shit, like there's like, because this game is like smaller in scope and it just doesn't like tell you where things are or where to go, like there's no map, no waypoints or things like that, and so secrets feel secret, mm-hmm. right? Like when you find the pickaxes, you're like, oh shit, like what are these for? And like you're like, oh yeah, I remember those blocked off like look like abandoned mine shafts or whatever, and then you go and you find one and bust your way through it, and you're like, oh yeah, you feel good about it.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's great for that kind of a thing. Like, secrets feeling secret is a big part of why secrets are cool in games. I've praised like the more recent Doom games in the past for a lot of the things that they do, but their secrets are on a map. So they aren't right. really they're highlighted, and there are lots of ways to like get to them, and I feel like that's kind of true in a lot of games. Or the secrets don't give you anything that's substantial, which, while is cute, and I like that kind of a secret as well, things in this game, like the fact that there are 20 total golden feathers to collect, and they're not all very telegraphed. Like, there's some that are just like exploration based, and other ones that are side quest related. Really makes it feel like doing everything to the best of your ability is going to get you a reward and make it feel worthwhile. And I liked that a lot.
Yeah, and you'll find the beach stickball court.
Mm-hmm. That was like the first thing that I did in the whole game.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird. Like,
I didn't find it till like pretty late.
I kind of just like went clockwise around the whole base of the island at the beginning, because I wanted to collect the shells, and I figured the shells would be on beaches, which would be at the bottom.
Yeah, I thought that I had done that, but missed like half the island somehow.
There's a part where, because I didn't know you could swim, and when I found out, because you find out pretty easily by just falling in the water, I realized that I could go around this like big cliff face, which I thought was just like invisible wall end of map kind of area,
right? But
it actually isn't, because the whole island is like circular and you can just kind of check it out,
right?
And yeah, I think because it's the beach stickball course is right next to the graveyard.
Yeah,
so I ended up there really early as well.
Yeah, I thought that had like a fun, or not fun, maybe the opposite of that, like an ominous implied like I don't know, just like environmental like story kind of thing. Like the fact that the graveyard is tucked away on the back of the island and there's like no one there. And I don't know, it just felt like really atmospheric to find that.
Yeah.
It stands out in my
And
mind.
it rains there
Yeah.
specifically.
Classic video games.
Yeah. It is like, it's that area where when I'm playing the game, you get so like wrapped up in sort of the cheery sort of atmosphere of it that when you get to the graveyard, it actually does sort of bring you down a bit.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I don't like this rain. Like, you're imagining it like hitting her feathers as she's floating around. And you're like, Claire, get out of here. Get back to somewhere you belong.
Yeah. Tonal contrast there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that really I think adds to the tone of this is the music.
Yeah.
I loved the soundtrack in this. I'm not a music person, or at least I can play music, but I can't write music to save my life. So I don't know a lot of technical terms about that sort of thing, like composing. But I feel like this music has like a quality to it that I really like. Like there's this like very atmospheric piano. Like I just really feel like the music brought this game to life. Like I think it carried a lot of the weight. And it's like a dynamic track that like shifts when you go from place to place, which is nothing new, but it's used to great effect in this.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Like I wanted to call it out because it's very cool. But I think what I settled on is that I'm just really impressed by how far indie games that don't have a big budget are capable of taking their music. Like this game effectively has like one song that just evolves depending on what you're doing. Like the song changes contextually with like how high up you are on the mountain, and are you gliding? Did you dive and are now gliding really fast? Did you get to where you are by jumping from the top of the mountain? It plays a different like stanza. It is a really dynamic and really cool soundtrack that actually does like bring a lot of life to it. And just like the way that it's set up, like in situations where you're walking and you're on the bottom floor, the ground level, it's
sea level.
Yeah, sea level. It's like silent, or it's like very disparate, like where the music is actually coming in.
Yeah, like sound of seagulls or something, you know, and waves.
So yeah, the audio experience of this is very good. I agree.
So another thing I wanted to talk about, this is a more specific to me kind of thing, but I want to talk about fishing in video games.
Yeah.
Because my first exposure to like fishing being incorporated into a game in this way is The Legend of Zelda, as I assume will be for a lot of other people as well. And I always kind of like shrugged it off in Zelda and like kind of even laughed at the idea of engaging with it. But I feel like I've just Stockholmed into it at this point because like whenever I encounter this kind of stuff in games now, I always like it. And I don't know if it's just because I'm old now or what.
That is, old people are the number one demographic for fishing, so...
But yeah, like we just talked about Hades on the main cast, and that has fishing in it. This has fishing. It just seems like more and more stuff is putting fishing in as a side activity. Yeah. And I'm just surprisingly like... okay with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm noticing also that a lot of modern like fishing implementation in games is the Animal Crossing style of fishing, where there isn't like fishing related strategy. It's just kind of a timing mini game where you cast and then wait and then press a button before the fish gets away. I mean, this is arguably a little bit more in depth than that. But I think that the answer is probably just like it's kind of simple to implement and makes sense in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Hades is like a standout example where it makes no sense while you're fishing. But like I still appreciate the inclusion.
It's a fun way to add a collectible, I guess.
Yeah. This game, though, I have to shout out for having the world's most satisfying cast.
Because it just like ping pongs.
Yeah, and it just every time you cast with such force that the bobber just like ricochets off of anything in the surrounding area. And it's really, because like when you're catching fish like in a river and you have kind of a narrow target, it is like playing Plinko. although you're more guaranteed to actually succeed.
You just have to stand far enough away
That it
before you
lands somewhere
cast.
near it. Yeah. But it's good. I liked it. I didn't engage too thoroughly with it. That wasn't the part of the game that I
Right. Yeah.
wanted to complete.
I just went on like a brief like fishing spree where I caught a bunch and then sold them.
Yeah. I love the guy that you sell them to.
Cap'n.
Yeah, who is
Basically.
essentially Cap'n, who sits on his boat, and then like whenever you bring him like a rare fish or something, he's like goes off and is like, "Whoa, Claire, you're like a fishing legend." I'm just like, hell yeah.
I like it when you'll show him one and then he'll pay you a certain amount for it, and then you'll show him the next one and it'll be worth less, but it'll be like one of my personal favorites.
I think, yeah, I mean, because the way that his dialogue is written is like, it's like you bring him a fish that's like pretty common, and like he'll just be like, yeah, but I like this one. This one's good. It seems like he is trying not to let you down.
Yeah.
And then like you'll bring him something that is like, oh, the albino salmon. Oh my god, 10 million gold for you. It's good. But I think the dialogue in this game is written really well overall. Like all of the side characters have their own little like story that they're trying to get through. Whether it's like the climbing guys trying to prove that their climbing club has really like prepared them to reach the summit. Or like there's the rabbit who's of course is preparing to race against a turtle. And the painter who goes from place to place and trying to like hit his like muse to make a masterpiece because he's presenting at an exhibit.
Right.
Like all of them have these little storylines, but they're all written in a really believable way. I was jokingly calling this game when it first started at just birds with cell phones, because like that's the whole, like the first thing you're introduced to is that you are a bird and that you are trying to get cell reception to get a phone call. And it's just really like, it is very nonsense, but obviously it's just animals being personified. It just really wasn't what I was expecting. And it keeps that energy through the whole thing where everyone is like an animal, and that does play in occasionally where they're like, could I get up to the summit? And you're like, well, you'd have to be a bird. Like you'd have to be able to fly to do it. But they're all written like they're human teenagers for the most part.
Right. God, I feel like I had something to say to that. Oh yeah, it does have like a simplistic charm to it, and like a consistency. Yeah, it's where like a lot of the personality comes from. Like the music I think carries the most weight for me, but like the art and the dialogue do add a lot as well. Like, it just creates like a distinct, I don't know, like flavor that the game has.
Right. Something that's like necessary for you to want to engage with all the little side quests, because they aren't like, most of them are not like mechanically demanding. It's more just like navigation.
Yeah. It's not dissimilar for something like Animal Crossing. Like you get like the cute little characters and they give their little garbled speech noises and it's just, like as I said, charming.
Well, this is like the cutest game I've ever seen in my whole life. Like it's very like as the internet kids would say, this is a wholesome game. For sure. Like there's
did the internet kids claim that away from old people?
I think they did. I think wholesome is just like a purely millennial thing now.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All right. Tell your grandmas.
They can't say wholesome anymore. Stop trying to be I don't think it's quite on the level of like elders using teen slang, though. But
it's like the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah, like your fucking people in the nursing home are like, these kids saying wholesome these days. Who do they think they are? But no, yeah, like even characters like I don't know if this character has a name. The the guy who sells you the feathers, who bought out all the feathers to turn a profit on them.
Yeah, because he needs to pay his college tuition.
Yeah, which you can eventually pay for him. Like, even that character who seems like purely a bad actor from the outset, they give, like, a reason for what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But weirdly justifying scalping, but, like, also... I think maybe they're going for, like, a tough times or tough for everyone kind of thing.
Yeah, just because they include it in the game doesn't mean they're endorsing it.
That's true. But, you know, he comes off as a sympathetic character.
Mm-hmm.
And you fund him going to college by having him artificially inflate prices.
Right.
Oh, God.
The one last major thing I had is I just wanted to make a loose, like, parallels with Celeste with this game. Because while Celeste is a lot more of, like, a heavy emotional story, this one still, I think, uses the idea of climbing a mountain as, like, a metaphor for, like, self-reflection or, like, being in a rut and, like, kind of getting over that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that fits really well in, like, this kind of more, like, small, personal, like, indie game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there are a lot of hurdles to jump through when you're making, like, a publisher-backed AAA game. And so when you try and make a small personal narrative, it has to go through a lot of approvals and shit. And so you very rarely get, like, a truly affecting big budget game. And this gets the benefit of being a self-published indie title, because it is just like a very small kind of inner narrative, where I agree that it uses the mountain as like or climbing the mountain as like a metaphor. The messaging for me always felt sort of like because you come off as disaffected when you start the game, like you haven't been doing anything all day, you've just been sitting around waiting for a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get out and go climb the mountain, you're like nice to everybody and everybody is nice to you, and you do all of these things for people and you make friends, and you get to the mountain and you realize, like, wow, like it was worth it to like go out and do the things that are here.
Yeah, it comes off as like she's somebody who would never normally do this sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, it's a great, that like personal growth metaphor, like I do agree it is like kind of similar to the way that Celeste tackles it.
Yeah.
But it is very appropriate, and I think that they go for a different angle on it.
Yeah, like a completely different one, but similar starting point, I guess.
For sure. Well, an ending point, technically, top of the mountain.
Yeah.
The point of self-reflection. The Celeste just kind of like takes a fucking cable car back down, and you get to
fly
down, which is sick. I have one more note that I intentionally say for the end here, because it is dumb and is not related to really how this game is supposed to be taken. Did you, I'm just guessing that you probably did, but did you collect either or both of the silver feathers?
No.
Okay.
I didn't. I only got like 12 feathers, I think.
19.
Nice.
I looked for that 20th one for like fucking a million years and couldn't find it.
Like, this game did suck me into like doing as many little things as I could, but I'm just not the kind of person that's going to comb for everything. So like I got as much as I could to the point where it started to feel a bit tedious, and then I just finished. Yeah.
So the reason I bring it up is the function of the silver feathers in this game is when you flap to double jump, you go higher, and when you climb faster.
Just as a side note, it took me like probably over halfway through my playing to realize you could flap. I always just thought you could just glide and never tried to like tap the A button
to actually jump. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway.
I felt like it always took a feather accidentally when I tried to jump onto a wall to climb it. So it may be a balancing thing, because like otherwise you would get that extra height and be able to climb things you're not supposed to.
Right.
But either way, like that's how I learned about it. I was trying to like jump onto a wall.
I got there eventually.
Yeah. But whenever you have the silver feather, they do stack, so when you get both of them, you like really get up there, And so when you have like a bunch of feathers and the silver feathers, you can like jump a bunch of times in a row, which, first of all, bias, I have to state, I love when you can jump more than once in a video game. Big fan of like anything where they're like triple jump, quadruple jump. It's just like fun for me.
Ori.
Yes. I like to be able to fly in a very limited sense, and I don't like being able to fly literally in games.
Yeah. Another side note that you just made me think of, I was just thinking about like Kingdom Hearts recently, because I'm me and I always think about Kingdom Hearts.
That's true.
You have a glide in that game. And I was thinking about like how rare that is.
Yeah, that you can just like float around.
You can double jump, or you get a higher jump halfway through the game, and then on top of that, you get the ability to just glide. Like once you hit the top of the jump, you can hold the button, and it's like that's such a great, like it feels so good to control.
Yep.
And it surprises me that not that many games have something like that. But this game does.
Yeah, and this game
and it uses
justifies
it to great effect, yeah.
by making you a bird,
right.
which Kingdom Hearts does not do.
Well, it does. In the first one, you learn to fly from Peter Pan.
Oh, yeah.
Pixie dust, man.
Mm-hmm. You're still just a dude, though.
Yeah. But there is magic from that story that they have incorporated into the gameplay mechanics.
That's probably why it doesn't show up in a lot of games, because you normally play as a human person who can't fly.
Human people can't double jump either.
I mean, that's true. But those usually get, like, rocket boots. There's, like, a little bit of pseudoscience in there. Anyway, what I was going for is that once you get a bunch of feathers and the silver feathers and are able to jump a whole bunch of times, you can do this thing that is glorious and makes navigation in this game, like, a joy, where you jump real high, dive, and then just fucking take off. Like, you move so fast that it's really not even all that useful to like look for stuff, but it just feels so fucking good to do. I was constantly surprised by how much that feeling of momentum, like combined with the music, really is just like a really uplifting experience. Like it's just a super fun little mechanic that is not really ever required to complete the actual game. So anything that helped me do that more was like something that I actively was seeking out.
Right.
It was a good time. I enjoyed that a lot. Well, do we have flying thoughts?
My flying thoughts are, I think, kind of just everything that we've said kind of rolled into one, as final thoughts tend to be. But like, I find it hard to narrow it down here to like a thesis. But yeah, this game was what I hoped it was going to be. Like, I knew very little about it. I just kind of, like, heard a couple people mention it, and I think someone brought it up on the Discord, maybe. So I decided to do it. And, yeah, I found what I was kind of hoping to find. It's got some, like, Animal Crossing charm. It's got some of that Celeste mountain metaphor, emotional reflection sort of vibe to the story. It almost feels like a little like diorama or something. It's like this little world that you get to explore that's inhabited by like fun characters that you like, and it just feels really good to spend time in. And I think a number of factors just lead to this having like a really nice atmosphere. So like I really enjoyed spending the time in it, and yeah, I think this hit me exactly the way it's supposed to. It just like it's a feel good indie like gem, I think.
Yeah, and I agree with pretty much all of that. I think that the game, like I said, is like the cutest game that I've played this year, and it is February, so you know, opportunity arises. But the actual like exploration of this game and the collectible aspects of it are the kind of thing that kind of drew me in. And I want to make a comparison to a game that I am struggling to remember the name of. I believe it is called Refunked, which is like defunct but with an R. And the concept of that game is that it is a platformer, like a first-person platformer, where you just jump from place to place on these like kind of faceless, nameless squares, and they like when you step on some, it triggers more things to show up in the other parts of the level. And the thing that I love about that game, and where I'm going to tie it back in, is that it takes like 30 minutes maximum to finish the game, and it's a really fun sort of like playground to be in. This game is like that game, but with personality. Like this game takes such a short time to finish, but there's so much extra stuff to do, and they've spent so long sort of like making the movement mechanics satisfying that it really is just like condensed a really enjoyable experience. Like, I love spending a short amount of time with this game that has the word short in its name, which makes me think that they had to have hit all of their development goals with how successful that alone is. So that's that. Thank you for listening to NOCLIP Pocket.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about Phasmophobia, a game that garnered some internet popularity on Twitch and things.
Because it's got spooky jump scares in it.
Spooky jump scares near the end of last year, and I wanted to see what it was all about.
Yeah, and I'd never heard of it. And granted, I haven't looked for this sort of thing, but like I don't know of any other like Ghost Hunter video games, which is something I was surprised I'd never seen anything like that before.
Grave Encounters, the game.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're going to be playing that and talking about it next time. Until then, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at noclippodcast.com. There you can find links to our email address, our Discord, links to all of our old episodes. You could listen to us talk about Animal Crossing from a couple years ago, or that Mario Odyssey episode that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other stuff that's like this. They're very different than this tonally, but I almost think of things like Monument Valley or like Year Walk. Yeah. As far as like little sandboxy, explory things.
If you listen to this episode and those two episodes in rapid succession, you can hear us talk about the benefits of a focused indie, like small indie game,
over and over again,
just repeatedly, because it's something we constantly bring up.
And maybe we'll brainwash you into thinking the same way that we do,
which is our overall goal, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I was supposed to say that.
Keep listening, keep listening, keep listening.
In the binaural audio.
Keep listening, keep listening. Smash the like button. Comment and subscribe.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready.
All right, you're gonna need all your fucking levels changed.